Go ahead,
Hey everybody, I'm Lynn Hollahan. Nice to see you guys here tonight. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. HPH goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. HPH affiliate groups welcome everyone regardless of religious or non-religious background and encourage open dialogue. Attendance to this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members. So we ask that you take from their presentations, whatever may benefit you personally. And Carol, I'll pass it over to you.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We're so happy to have our beautiful Sue. Let me read about her bio. I'm very excited to have her for sure. Sue Frederick, lifelong intuitive and spiritual coach, is the author of Bridges to Heaven, True Stories of Loved Ones on the Other Side, I See Your Soulmate, I See Your Dream Job, Your Divine Lens, and Water Oak, The Happiness of Longing. As a master numerologist, career and grief intuitive coach, and soon to be ordained unity minister, she's taught hundreds of workshops for those who seek alignment with their soul's purpose and for those who are grieving. In her workshops and client sessions, she's witnessed the profound healing of slipping into your higher self for guidance and to connect with loved ones on the other side. Sue believes we can all connect to our departed for healing conversations, and that our consciousness is much more expansive than we understand it in this limited physical world. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, CNN.com, Real Simple, Yoga Journal, Natural Health, and Complete Women magazines. And I want to read what Sue has also written. We each come here with a great soul intention to live up to our greatest potential, line our lives up with our highest self, and do great work that helps others. We hit bumps in the road, loss, illness, financial challenges, childhood pain, and relationship turmoil. When we align our ego mind with the wisdom of the soul, we step into our power. We see the hidden beauty of each painful moment. We understand the purpose of each perfectly designed challenge. We know exactly who we are and how to move forward to our great potential. This is the beauty of your divine lens. You can access your divine lens at any moment. It's a simple shift of perception. Here's how. And I'm going to pass it over to Sue so she can share her beautiful book, The Divine Lens. Oh, look at the divine, or your divine lens. It's amazing. I know with my background thing here, it was hard to see the book, but welcome, Sue.
Well, it's such an honor to be here. This is absolutely my favorite group of people in the world, because as some of you know, I believe that grief is our greatest spiritual teacher, pushes us to grow like no other. And if you've had your life and your heart broken wide open with grief, it means you're a highly evolved soul who agreed to go through this journey of accelerated spiritual growth. So I already love you because of that. So do you guys ever find yourself saying to yourself or to other people, I don't see things that way? Like, I remember when my husband Paul died when I was 29 and my best girlfriend Chrissy died right after that, people would come up to me and say, those are horrible tragedies, you have bad luck. Like they had a whole bunch of kind of labels that they would put on it. And I remember back then in my late 20s going, but I'm not sure, that's really not how I see it. And I also knew in my heart then that there was a different perspective, that there was a soul's perspective. But the question or the problem was, so how do I walk in the physical world with my ego telling me it's a tragedy, while my soul is trying to whisper to me, no, this is a soul growth moment. It's a soul agreement. And Paul and Chrissy are perfectly fine and loving their new phase of their journey in the divine realms. And you're still here, Sue, for a reason. So pay attention and get it done. So I'm not saying that I did right away. Trust me, I had some very painful years of my early 30s, because grief is, as you all know, our greatest heartbreak here. And loss of a child, as you all know, is the greatest pain that we could ever experience. It also means you're incredibly evolved, powerful souls, or you wouldn't have agreed to this soul life plan that you're on. So how do we look at this life in a different way and still be on earth and still be functioning with the ego? One of the ideas that I had to understand during my journey was, well, if we're souls, if our loved ones continue on, what is the purpose of this physical life? Why do we have to come here? Because it's really hard here. And if you've ever been through grief, you really know how hard it is. And so my whole thought process about it was, okay, so even if I'm okay with knowing that my departed is fine, how do I live my life here and fulfill my soul mission? And that's when I really began exploring this idea. Okay, so every minute of every day, we have the ego lens view and the soul divine lens view. And when I go to do my work or to buy groceries, I'm in my ego lens because I've got to survive here physically. So I have to learn how to do those things and function and be competent. But I have to also have one foot in the divine realms, so that if I'm suddenly gobsmacked by a memory that puts me into a grief phase, I can also be in touch with my soul going, oh, this is a little sign from Paul or Chrissy. This is a little, hey, pay attention moment from my soul, rather than something intended to decimate me and put me back into my grief and despair. And I know that all of you have those two dualities going on in your journeys as well. So 20 years ago, when I really launched my intuitive coaching work and started writing a number of books, all of them were about, like, how do we shift into that higher view? And some of you know I've used numerology since 1980 to be one of the tools that can shift us into that soul's perspective. It really helps to give you that long view of your journey here and your soul agreements. But I also, as you probably know, have been meditating for many, many decades, actually, and turning within, going to the silence, whether you call it meditation or prayer. It's really important in this physical world, because this physical world, as you all know, is going to pull your focus into the mundane details day after day. And that's how we lose our sense of our soul's lens, our divine lens, because we're dealing with all of these hard physical challenges and problems that come up. And so in the moment, if you have 5 minutes to just turn within and go into your meditation or say some affirmative prayer, it does shift your consciousness back into that soul's perspective. And I've worked with many grieving moms, a lot of you all I've probably worked with. And that's one of the things that we talk about is, some people say, well, I'm not comfortable sitting and doing a long silent meditation. That's okay. But could you give it 5 minutes a day or maybe 10 and see if it helps you shift into that soul's perspective of listening to your departed, of listening to your soul's wisdom, of listening to your higher consciousness? That puts you into your divine lens view. So I want to tell you about a vision I had in 2014, because it's what inspired this book, Your Divine Lens. And I had been teaching a grief workshop at Kripalu Retreat Center in Massachusetts. And it was one of those 3-day grief workshops. So everybody, there were about 40 of us, and we were all living in the same building and eating in the same cafeteria and going to the workshops all day. And that is a very profound experience. And I hope you guys all come to the Helping Parents Heal conference in August, because when we're all melded like that in the same location, I believe it really helps the departed spirits kind of come through really strongly to help all of us collectively. And in those workshops, it has always been my pattern that I never get any sleep, because at night, the departed spirits, especially of the children, are just running past my inner vision. Like I'm waking up seeing their faces, because they're like, you have to tell mom such and such. And so I'm like, I even have a notebook next to me. And so in 2014, I hadn't yet told the spirits, wait a minute, I need a little sleep. Please let me get a little sleep. And instead, I was just kind of note taking all night and seeing their faces, and it was wild. And but the end result of that was that I came home exhausted, and of course got sick. And so I was spending a week in bed, and I was really, really depleted from the whole trip and everything. And I was also upset about some things going on within my family of origin. So I was worried about that and what was happening there. So I just had a lot of things kind of pulling my attention. One night, my fever went way up, like 103. And I remember that night just going to sleep and surrendering to it all, and just saying, you know, if it's my time to go, just take me, but lift me out of this body. Like this just feels terrible. And that night, I was lifted up out of my body, and I was brought to the outer reaches of the galaxy. And I had such a strong sense of being held by angels and spirit guides. And they were showing me our planet that we live on, planet Earth, from a distance, sort of like here, you see. My husband designed this for me after I told him about the vision. So it's kind of what it looked like for me. And there were points of light on the globe. And from a distance, the guides were saying, do you see all those points of light? That's consciousness waking up. And do you see that there's way more light than darkness on the planet? Quit worrying about everything. The light is always winning. It doesn't matter how things feel hard down there, or how they appear to be falling apart or painful. The truth is that when you look at it from the bigger perspective, the light is always winning. And so I remember asking them, well, can you help me do that more? Can you help me live down there and remember that picture of the light always winning? And they said, you have to do that. That's what the human journey is about. You have to remember to look and remember and see that and get that inner view. You've got to detach from the physical sometimes to do that. And I was like, aha. And when I woke up, that idea kept going through my head. And I thought, I need to write a book about this. I need to write a book about how we all have that divine lens view, and we all have the ego lens view, and we've got to learn to shift between them and have both of them in our lives. And so that's where the book came from, Your Divine Lens. And I'm a very practical person, so I really wanted to have a lot of tools in there for everyday life, for everyday people, so that you could use your divine lens to help you with your career, with your relationships, with your grief, of course, with every single moment of your life and whatever troubles you. And the cool thing is that you can use your divine lens for your career, for your finances. Like some people go, oh no, I've got to be completely logical and left brain about my career. Even if I hate my job, I've got to keep it because it's an income. Well, there's a soul's view over here, a divine lens view that has a different story to tell you that says, well, have you thought about trying such and such and maybe trying to make your living doing that because it's more in alignment with your soul's work and your soul's truth? And I've seen so many people really shift their whole career trajectory because they're suddenly viewing it from that divine lens perspective. But more appropriate to all of you is the idea of grief and loss. So when we lose our beautiful, beautiful child or our beautiful loved one, the first thing that happens is, you know, we have these two things happening. We might have our departed showing up in the bedroom at night and trying to tell us everything's okay, but we have the ego view going, oh my God, that was horrible. Why didn't you do something differently and save their life? And that's always what we hear as grievers. We always hear that guilt story. And guess what? That guilt story does not come from your soul. It comes from the ego view, the ego lens. So let me give you an example of those two voices so you can be sure you can recognize who's talking to you. The ego voice, the ego lens is always saying, hey, that's your fault. You messed that up, or that person is to blame, or life is tragic, or blah, 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 blah. You know that voice. That's the voice that keeps us up at night. It really is filled with guilt and fear and anxiety. So that is your ego. Some people think the ego is all about saying, hey, I'm awesome. No, the ego is all about you need to survive in this physical world. So you just have to be strong and kind of win here. That's what the ego is about. But the soul is going, no, you got this. This is a realm of love here and higher consciousness. You are only here for a brief time in your soul's journey, and you're only here to evolve your soul and help others evolve through loss, through grief, through heartbreak, through all of it, through joy, through success. It's all the journey of your soul evolving and waking up and sharing that awareness with others. That's our collective consciousness waking up. You can think of it as this picture here, that when you're living from that divine lens view, you are one of those points of light and you are awakening others as you go. So I think I'm going to shut up and quit babbling for a minute and just let me listen for a moment, make sure there's nothing else I've missed, and then we can ask if anybody has questions. This is important. The departed spirits were telling me right before I went on that you all needed to hear this and talk about this. A lot of times when we work with grieving, when I work with grieving clients, they say, you know, my son believed this, or he had this attachment to this thing over here, or maybe he didn't get along with so-and-so. And so they are holding on to that perspective for their departed loved one. And yet when a soul crosses over, they are no longer in the ego lens view. They do not have an ego. They are pure divine being, which is our essence, our true nature. And they are in that place of pure love, understanding, compassion. And we go to that as soon as we cross over as well. And in that place, there's no blame, there's no regrets, there's no, gee, why didn't you do that better, mom? None of that. That's the ego. And so when you think about connecting to your departed loved one, you can think they're not worried about if I give away their shoes or not. That's the ego view. So I don't need to hold on to that for my soul's view tells me that it doesn't, those things don't matter to them. And I remember with Paul, when Paul crossed over, he was a young mountain climbing guy, you know, just really physical and beautiful and handsome. And I had a room full of his mountaineering equipment and backpacking gear, and then also his a lot of things he had written. He had a master's in divinity, so he back then was writing about spirituality and stuff. And I held on to all that stuff, I'm embarrassed to say, for probably 30 years, maybe, until we left Boulder, Colorado in 2019. I kept all that. And when I was finally cleaning out the house and cleaning out the garage to move down here, I was going through Paul's things, and his voice was so loud and clear in my head going, would you get rid of that stuff? I have no attachment to it. It means nothing to me. It's weighing you down. Don't you dare pay the movers to bring that stuff to Arizona. And it was so loud. And so I had to let it all go. But as grievers, I know you all know this feeling that we are still seeing everything through the ego lens about their life, but they are not. They are in that complete soul, beautiful place of peace and love and compassion and growth. They're learning and growing over there in the divine realms. And their whole mission is to keep helping consciousness evolve from the divine realms, and particularly us, those of us who are grieving here and who get lost in our fear and our pain and our darkness. They're always trying to lift us up and pick us up. I did a session with actually a grieving mom who's in this group. I did a session with her today, and her son was just like, he wouldn't even sit in my meditation. Usually I sit and they kind of slide in next to me and I take notes from what they have to say. He was like, no, he was up moving around. He was like, things have to be done. You got to get this message to mom. I couldn't even sit in my own meditation. I had to get up and walk around the room to listen to what he was saying. And so he's so adamant, mom, this doesn't matter. This does matter. And when you all listen to your children in your meditation, in your sacred prayer, you can get so clear on what does not matter anymore to them, and yet what does matter. So I hope this is landing okay. Yes, the light is always winning. So should we open it to questions, Carol, or do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a few things, and I'll start. And then if anyone wants to put anything in the chat box, I'll keep my eyes on it. But you talked about prayer in your book, and I just, you said what prayer was about. Basically, because I know how I used to pray when I was little, and it's, what you want. And I loved what you said about how you should pray. So I thought maybe you could share that.
Yeah, I love that. This was a learning for me because I grew up Catholic, so we were all taught a certain, like, you pray for a thing. Like in my volleyball teams in school, we, like the priest would come out and pray that we would win the volleyball game. I mean, I look back at all that and I think, so God, whoever wins is the team God liked better. But that was really the old way of seeing God, the old paradigm, because now I really do know that God is a loving consciousness that lives in all of us. It's not a person who's angry or punishing or demands things from us. And so when we shift into that awareness, we can say, oh, well, then what I'm praying for is my own wisdom to be shifted up, my own higher consciousness. I am praying to see the lesson in this pain so that I can be lifted up and move through it more gracefully. And along those lines, whenever I have a hard day or I'm grieving or tired, my call out to my God consciousness is, please lift me above this and bring me to that place of complete divine lens awareness where I see it all through my soul's lens. And just to be silly about this, I have dental surgery coming up Friday, and I hate going to the dentist more than like anything else in the world. It utterly terrifies me. Don't ask me why, but so I have this prayer going, like, I don't care what happens in that surgery. All I'm asking is that I get lifted up through the whole experience. So I'm feeling love, compassion, bliss, just in connection with Paul and Chrissy and Chief Fool's Crow and all my loved ones, and just traveling in the realms while they do what they got to do to my mouth, And that's how I pray. I also finishing up school to be a Unity minister. And they teach this beautiful thing where you use prayer as a time to affirm who you are, affirm your divinity. So for example, a prayer would be, I affirm that I am a divine being who came here on purpose to evolve and help others evolve. And I am learning and doing exactly what I need to do here and what I need to learn. And so it is. I think that's a very powerful, helpful prayer as well.
Thank you so much. I have a few people who've asked. One of the questions here is, they're curious to know what does matter to our kids, because I know.
Yeah, a big thing is to see us doing okay matters. That's a huge thing for us, for them, because when they leave and they see us fall apart, they understand it because they're in the divine realms and they understand that down here on earth, we agree to have those heavy feelings and to go through pain, but they are trying to give us signs and opportunities to have more and more moments of lifting into that divine lens, of seeing the signs they're sending and acknowledging them, and really lifting our energy into that better, more comfortable place. And I'm not saying that to put any pressure on any of you, because we got to feel the pain we have to feel, but just know that to connect with them, they can even connect with you easier if you're shifting maybe into a little gratitude, like, I'm so grateful I had that time with them. If any time that I had with them, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that they taught me to love, and that they taught me what's important here on earth, which is love, basically. So I am so grateful for all of that. And now my energy has shifted up, and now we're all more in touch with those beautiful spirits trying to help us and guide us.
Thank you. There is also, and Lynn did give your website, because there's a woman who has said, Sue, I do meditate and believe I hear my son so many times. He comes to me, and what you are saying, I am truly speaking with him. And then she was asking how to get a one-on-one appointment with you. So thank you, Lynn. Put that in the chat for everybody.
Thank you.
Sue is amazing. I mean, I had a reading with Sue, and it really was so powerful. My husband absolutely loved it. He was home that day, and he just, she's so spot on with the numerology, and our loved ones are there, and it really just blew us away. So I highly recommend a one-on-one with Sue.
Thank you. It's so funny when you say that, because I don't feel like it's me. Like, I feel like, okay, she's talking about that other person who sits in meditation and downloads guidance and all of that. And that's not me. I'm just this everyday person trying to survive here with an ego lens like everybody else. But when we all go into our divine lens, when we all sit, before I meet with any client, I sit in meditation. And I know many mediums don't do that, or maybe they don't agree with it, but I have to do it because it's how I pull away from the earthly thoughts and really align with my soul and my higher consciousness. And you can all do that. And then the other tool that you can all do that is so powerful, it just blows my mind every time, is that I have these yellow pads. I guarantee you, if you put these yellow legal pads around your house, and every time you think you hear your son or a spirit talking to you, just pause what you're doing, take out your pen and start writing, and just say, pretend. You can start out by saying, I'm pretending that you are writing to me here, beloved son or daughter. I'm pretending it. So I'm writing these words here. And then as you open the gates of it that way, it starts pouring through you until you can hardly get the words down fast enough. It's just coming through you, and it's coming out of nowhere, and it's surprising things your conscious mind was never aware of. And you just keep writing. You don't doubt it. You don't edit it. You just let it pour through you. And then when I start a session with my clients, the first thing I do is share that writing. And that's why I don't feel like it's me doing the session, because it's really the spirit pouring it through on the paper. And I'm just the vehicle of sharing that. But the thing is, all of you can do that. All of you can sit with your paper and your pen, and you can do it at night before you go to sleep or in the morning when you first wake up, and just write from your beautiful departed child. They have so much to say to you, even if they were very young when they crossed. Their soul is ageless. Their soul is eternal. Their soul is trying to talk to you and help you.
Thank you, Sue. And I have someone complimenting you, saying that they had a reading with you. It was amazing. They highly recommend it. The automatic writing she did with my son was so much fun. She said, for me, a good reading is better than therapy. I agree. I agree. It is therapy. It is therapy. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you, Sue. And then another thing that I loved when I read about in your book, and I'd love you to talk about this, when you talked about practicing, unconditional love. And you said, start with one person. And this helps, these tools that are all listed in her book. So, but this particular one I thought was really good, where you said, start with one person and then, work from there, sending them unconditional love. So I'm assuming that one person you would be talking about was maybe somebody who wasn't so easy to love.
Yeah. So that is such a great tool, because when we go into that state, and here's how I kind of teach it. I just say, picture that person. Maybe it's your ex partner who you're divorcing, or maybe it's somebody who hurt your child who is departed now. Whoever it is that you're feeling something less than love for, picture them, and picture them as their happiest, most loving, highest self, because we all have that highest self. No matter how we're behaving here on earth, we are souls, and our souls have the higher consciousness always. And so you picture that person, picture them looking at you through their higher consciousness, their beautiful soul, their shining heart looking back at you, and you just send them pure love, and you'll see them smiling back at you, sending you pure love, and just hold that. And you only have to hold it maybe a few seconds, and then you release it. And what it does is it shifts the consciousness for both of you, that you're raising that person to their higher consciousness, so that they won't know why, but suddenly they'll have a moment of feeling better about life and maybe behaving better and all of that, because somebody else is helping raise their vibration, their energy. And then for us, the minute we send unconditional love like that to anyone, even ourselves, it shifts us into our divine lens, our soul's view, because it's only the ego lens that says, who do you think you are, or you're not good enough, or this or that. So another good exercise is you can go look in the mirror, and you can look at yourself, and instead of going, oh, gee, I have this problem or that problem, or what's wrong with my aging face, or any of those things we do, instead you go, I love you. You are a beautiful soul on a journey. I know you're doing the best you can. I hold you in pure love and gratitude for that, and for everything you're learning on this hard journey. And so it is. And that will shift your energy.
Oh, you're so amazing. You are so amazing. Another thing you talked about, our mental ego tells us that receiving love is the priority. I can't read my own writing. Sorry, guys.
Right.
The key to happiness, but it's backwards. And I would love you to talk about that.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, it's funny how we grow up and we're told, oh, you're going to find somebody who loves you, or did your mother not love you enough? And so we kind of are given this story of it's all about the get, right? It's all about, I got to get love. I got to get love from my partner. I got to get love from my children. I got to get love from the neighbors, all that stuff, and that puts us in a terrible energetic position because that's not how it works down here. The way it works is that we are each a channel, and you can even picture your crown chakra being completely open to divine love pouring down through you. You are a channel of divine love from God consciousness. That is your innate nature. And think of a baby, a child, all that sweetness you feel in them. That's because this is so wide open and receptive to that divine love. And it's just pouring out of their heart chakra to you and to the world. That is our natural state. That's what we are here to do. And once you do that, once you realize that that love pouring through you and out to others changes everything in your life. It changes all relationships. It changes your career, usually brings your career to a better level. It changes your ability to live with grief because now hey, I'm going into the coffee shop and I am going to send this love out. I don't care if I speak to anybody or not. I'm just pumping the love out wherever I go. And you will notice magic happening. People will just respond to you in a very positive way, and magic things will happen because that's how we're all supposed to be functioning here. Imagine this world if everybody walked through every day going, let me channel this love out to everybody, no matter what. That's the world we're aiming for. If we can evolve our consciousness, I'm not going to say if, as we evolve our collective consciousness here, that's where we're going.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I missed a question here. Sorry. Someone is asking, will spirit only connect when we are in high vibration? This is something I often hear from spiritual teachers.
I don't want you all to worry about that because I think it doesn't totally apply with grief. And here's the reason I feel that way. All the spirits in the divine realms know that life here on earth is so hard. And they especially know that when we've lost a loved one, we are going to be in the grief. There is just no way around it. They know that. And they are here to help us, the spirit guides, the departed loved ones. So it's not like they're going to abandon us because we're feeling grief and pain, but they will be lovingly trying to help us and lovingly putting little signs and things to get us to try to lift our consciousness. And they are endlessly patient with us because they are in the divine realms where there's no ego. So even if I'm going around the earth acting like an idiot and angry at the world because I lost a loved one, they're watching us going, well, maybe when she goes in that coffee shop, I'll have somebody say something nice to her to help her shift her energy, and they're always trying to do little things to help us feel better because they know that we need help when we're grieving. So please never think, because I know the ego mind's going to go, oh, you're grieving so much. There is no spirit that's going to get through to you. And your departed child is probably very annoyed with you. That's what the ego says. But your soul can say, I am doing my best. I am feeling grief because I am human and I'm in the physical world and it's tough down here. And my ego lens is telling me how terrible things are. But I am a soul on a journey and it's all perfect. And I will come into a higher vibration as soon as I can.
Thank you, Sue. That's beautiful. I know in your book, you mentioned a girl named Marie, and it was obvious that she struggled right from, when she was 6 years old and her mother got breast cancer and she had to watch over her. And at 9, her mom died. And there were so many struggles that you talked about. Then she went through, she got married, and then her 17-year-old son passed in an accident from a drunk driver. So my question is, she appeared to be evolved right from the get-go when you explained her personality and you know, right from the get-go. So my question is, somebody who is evolved, because I think all of our children that have left early were highly evolved and they finished what they came here to do. So someone who's highly evolved, it would be easier, in my opinion, to shift to that divine lens because they already have, you know, so many of these beautiful characteristics. And I know you mentioned in the book, you said that we pick our minds. We pick our minds. And so I know, you know, we pick our minds. So some of us, I pick to maybe be stubborn as a challenge, but maybe talk a little. Well, I don't agree with that. I think you're just a bright light from, I'm sure you've been that way always, but
Oh, no, no, no. I am so stubborn. Why don't you just ask my husband, Gene, about that?
well, I guess my question is for those of us that struggle, especially, I know early on in grief, we just naturally are, you know, we're out of our, we could be the most amazing people. And I know there's so much anger, but that all, you know, this part of the journey for so many. But how do you help? What would you recommend for somebody who maybe chose that mind that's a little bit harder to get through to help them switch that lens?
Yeah. Well, the good news is that even though some of us do choose to come in with a hard head, be stubborn like me, or think we know it all from an early age and we're not going to change our viewpoints, the good news is that every single breath you take, you are making a shift or holding a possibility for a different viewpoint. So even that client, Marie, that I wrote about in the book, you know, she had choices. Like she had a really rough childhood, but then she would see art and painting and color, and it would excite her, it would elevate her. So she would go and do some art and some painting. So whenever we see something that makes us happy, or we feel happier, if we're hiking, for example, or painting or dancing or anything, if we can just go, okay, well, I'm just going to go and do that one little thing that makes me happy, because when we do that, our vibration is naturally lifted. So, for example, my favorite story about that is when Paul died. I think I weighed about 90 pounds because I'd been taking care of him. He had cancer for a year, and I just couldn't eat, and I was kind of wasting away there. And his dying instructions were, he wanted his ashes carried to the highest lake in North America, because we had been mountain climbers and hikers. And on his deathbed, he told me and some of our friends, I want you to carry my ashes to the highest lake in North America. And one of my friends from mountaineering knew where that lake was. And he said, oh, it's outside of Breckenridge. It's 13,000 feet. And Paul went, yes, you have to take my ashes there. So everybody witnessed this. And then Paul crossed over, and here I am like 2 days later, can't hardly keep food down. I weighed like 90 pounds, and my friends are going, we have to hike to the highest lake in North America, and you have to go with us. I remember thinking, oh my God, Paul, I would kill you if you weren't already dead, because I don't know if I can do this. And so we put on a pack, and I had great friends back then, and they made my pack really light, and they carried most of the camping stuff that we needed. And so we did this hike that was probably the hardest hike I've ever done. And I've climbed most of the 14ers in Colorado when I was younger. But this hike had, you hiked up to a basin, and then there was a loose rock wall, probably 100 feet high, that you had to climb up. And every step you took, the rock was sliding, and you'd have to pause and breathe, and then take another, and then get to the top. And so I felt I was dying through that entire process. And then we crested that wall, and we were in a valley of 14,000 foot snow-covered peaks feeding down to a lake with wildflowers everywhere. and I came back into my body. My soul was instantly elevated, and I was filled with awe and gratitude and love. And by the time we got back home from that trip, I was eating, my appetite was back, I was sleeping. Paul had known in his wisdom that we all needed to get out in nature and just forget our lives and just go be in the beauty, and that it would help us. And it did. It saved my life in so many ways. So whether it's going for a hike for you, or going on a road trip, or watching a movie that you love, anything that begins to make you feel better, it's going to pull you into that divine lens perspective. So be my witness, people. If I cross over, I want my ashes carried to the highest lake in North America. I've told my kids this, and I've said, and with all my clothes too, and my books. I'm just kidding.
Christy is saying that that is such a beautiful story. Thank you. Would you say, Sue, that you already had a lot of your practices put into place before Paul transitioned to help you?
No.
No.
You know, you guys have to know that in my 20s, I was a mountaineering instructor. I mean, yes, I had dabbled in Native American spirituality. I'd grown up Catholic. I'd even studied theosophy a bit, you know, but spirituality, you could say, was on the periphery of my life. My passion was hiking and mountains and writing and all this stuff. I was stubborn, and I was closed-minded to things. And when Paul died, it cracked me open in such a way that it eventually sent me to an ashram. Not right away. I had to go do some crazy things first, like live in Mexico, teach fitness, whatever. And finally, when I sort of came back to wanting to get my life in order, my pain sent me to an ashram. I got to that place where I simply wanted to surrender to the lesson. I was finally on my knees saying, I don't know anything about anything. I need help. I need answers. I surrender. And it's when you hit that place, and for some of us, it takes a while, and for others, they get it right away. When you get to that place, the answers come pouring in. You are now open, you're departed, and your spirit guides and the angels are all helping you and all lifting you up. But you got to get, I always say, you got to get to that place where you're on your knees going, I surrender what I know, teach me, show me. And that's when everything shifts.
Thank you. And this is, I think, the perfect time. I had written something down that you had written in your book, and I think this is the perfect time to read it. You said, each lifetime contains a series of awakenings. If we embrace the lesson within each challenge, we find our way. We stay on path. We are given many opportunities to change direction, reinvent, and rethink each time we hit a crisis. I highlighted that in your book, and so I thought, I'm going to write it down, and if there comes a time, I'm going to read it. So.
And that's true. You know, that is really the purpose of all of these soul-shaking challenges we have here on Earth, because when we're in the divine realms, it's not like that. We are in a loving realm of higher consciousness. We can go and study and learn with the masters, you know, and really just absorb. It's just, many of you have experienced this in your travels and your visions. And I lead people on soul regression sessions where we go there, and they always see their spirit guides. They always see their departed. They have these profound healing conversations, because the divine realms are more real than this one. And so, you know, in that divine realm, we understand everything. But down here, we know we're coming in for it to be a little challenging, because that's what wakes us up. And the only thing we have to do is eventually go, all right, I'm ready to learn. And that can be a hard thing. Many of us fight that, you know, resist it. Like, I was angry when Paul and Chrissy died, and it took me a long time to drop that anger. And I'm embarrassed when I look back and see, that I was angry that good people suffer. And that's just such a common thing. If your loved one dies of cancer or something, there's a part of you that just wants to go, wait a minute, why are good people suffering? That really makes me angry at God as he's defined, or at this universe. Don't tell me this universe has my back if good people are suffering. And that's the ego lens view. And I was very locked into that. And then when I finally was able to say or listen to the idea that perhaps Paul chose that path of suffering because it broke him down and cleared away some negativity he had wanted to get rid of in many lifetimes and couldn't break the pattern. And it was true that as he went through that physical suffering, he became a pure, loving light being by the time he crossed over. And I was the one who was so angry and rageful at the world and the doctors and everything else. And so I had to go through my breakdown to get to that different perspective. And my breakdown came through grief. So we choose what we choose to force us to grow, but it works, it helps.
I agree, Sue. In fact, when you taught us all to figure out our personal year, I went back to when Tyler passed away and to see what that personal year lesson was, or that personal year. And it was the 7, which is the spiritual growth.
Yes.
And it made such sense because I truly believed in nothing prior to Tyler's passing. And then once he passed, it cracked me open, and numerous mediums have told me that was part of the plan. And but it again, you were spot on with everything. So another thing I'd like to ask is, when you meditate, and this is on a completely different note, but do you ever use crystals or because I know I like to use crystals. I feel like sometimes it just helps me. So I'm just curious your opinion on that.
I have crystals around the house, and I've often used them to raise energy. And I have crystal bowls, sound bowls. And so I'll use those as well to raise energy. My favorite meditation tool on a daily basis is my mala. It's just so comforting to me. I can't even explain it. Like, I sit down with my hand on the beads, saying a sacred mantra on every bead. And I have this routine before working with a client where I sit down and I hold the mantra and I start doing the mala, and I start doing my mantra, and I'll say to them in their name, please slip in next to me now and tell me what I need to know to help your mom or something. And it's like they kind of like the beads too. Like, they just like the rhythm of that. They come and slide in next to me and we talk. And so the beads to me are my spiritual doorway. Like, if I go to when I go to the dentist on Friday, I'm going to have my wrist mala, and I'm going to have that in my hand, just be doing a little secret meditation with my small mala while I'm in the dentist chair, without making them think I'm totally crazy.
Well, that's good to know. I was curious because I thought we talked about, I knew you liked crystals and stuff. I just wondered if you meditated with them.
Yeah. In fact, I didn't wear them tonight, but I have moonstone crystal earrings and amethyst crystal earrings. And usually I wear that kind of stone too, as a way to help shift my vibration, raise my energy. So everything helps us here if we allow it to, if we let it to. Our pets, our puppies, our cats, everything helps us shift our energy here. We just have to say yes to it.
I completely agree. And you may have already said this, and I might have missed it, looking at some of the, let's see, I might have had a question here. One thing that Sue talked about. One thing somebody has said.
Oh, the family soul agreement. Is that the one we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a great thing about numerology, is that So if you want to do a session with me, I'll ask for your date of birth, but also the date of birth of your departed and your family members, your husband, if you have other children. And it is so cool. On my end, I'm blown away constantly by seeing these soul posses. Like one family will have all 11 path people in the family or something, or all, and then you can just sort of watch it and wow, this group of people has been incarnating together for so long. They are so merged with each other for growth and highest good. And you can see it in the numbers. You can see the soul agreements in the numbers. And that's one thing I really love about numerology, is that anyone can do that. You can get any of my books and read about it and just see what all of your soul agreements are with the people in your family and with your departed loved one, of course. And I've always used the numbers as a gateway into that divine lens view, because it really does. It just shifts you right up to understanding them in a whole different way.
Yes, thank you. And what I was going to say, what I started to say before I noticed that there was something else to talk about, was numerology. When would you say in your journey you became very interested in this?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that. Yeah, because it was literally, I was thinking about this last night. Paul died in July, and I really think it was like 3 months later that a friend said, I want you to do a numerology reading with this person. I'm sending her over to your house. And I remember at the time, it's so funny the way we remember things. I remember I felt like I needed to wash my hair, and I kind of felt too weak and out of it to wash my hair, but I was embarrassed for her to see me looking the way I looked. And so I remember sitting down on my couch with my hair all wet, and her coming in, and she had Paul's date of birth and mine and my whole family constellation. And she sat down with me, and in 1 hour changed my life, because she told me things about why I had agreed to this, why Paul had agreed to that, just brought me a whole new perspective on it, and much better for me than therapy, because I was also seeing a grief therapist, and that wasn't, for me, that wasn't really helping. But numerology, and I must say that from then on, even in my angry years, I was still doing numerology. I had my big numerology workbook, and I'd go and figure out people's paths and stuff. But honestly, to be clear, I was an angry mess through most of my early 30s. And that didn't stop Paul from coming back and trying to show me how it works, or Chrissy from coming back. And it didn't stop my evolution, and it won't stop any of yours. It doesn't matter if you're struggling. It's okay. Please be okay with wherever you are, because you will make it through. You will get to that place where you see it from your soul's view most of the time. And your loved ones will never give up on you. They are always there to help you.
Thank you. There's one more question, and then I'll let you maybe give us some final thoughts, because we're almost at 6 o'clock. David is asking, spirits on other planets, other worlds, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do soul regression therapy. So I've had clients who, when they go between lives, it's very clear, and they go to past lifetimes, it's very clear that they're in a different galaxy, a different planet. But the cool thing is that there are still souls, and they're still there evolving and learning, and every different planet, every different world has a different theme to it, like a different lesson that you're learning when you incarnate there. And this one client I was working with, her guide said, but you chose Earth for this lifetime because you really wanted to grow, and there's no place that pushes you to grow the way Earth does. And I thought, yeah, tell her guide, she is right about that. Like, what's an easier planet? I'll go there, just tell me. So yes, I do believe our spirits incarnate in many different places, but we're all souls on a journey evolving for highest good for all of us.
Thank you so much, Sue. You are wonderful. And
Carol, you are wonderful. I hope all of you love on Carol as much as I do. She is like absolutely my favorite person in the world.
Well, ditto. You guys, there's so many amazing people in this group, our Helping Parents Heal family. I have never met so many incredible people. And
I agree.
so that is definitely a silver lining to this journey. Well, thank you. And I'm sure we will have you back again. And her book, Your Divine Lens, highly recommend. I recommend a reading with Sue. I mean, she's just fabulous. And we'll ask everyone to unmute so you can say goodbye. And thank you all for being here.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sue.
Thank you.
Lynn,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love you.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Love you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Love you.
Carol,
Thank
thank you. Sue, you were
Bye.
beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Love you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.